someone who's moved to New York and lived there will have to take that.
I'm going to take that one because I grew up there. I was born and raised in New York City, right? So it wasn't until I got to Boston, because you know, when you grow up in any, I guess it's any major city, but certainly New York, it's like the world revolved around New York. Nothing was better than New York. I was never gonna leave New York, ever. And it was not so much about, well, it was probably a little bit about music too, but just New York was, you know, super city. So it wasn't until I got to Boston when I realized how everyone that was here wanted to go to New York, right? And so that's why I only stayed here for a year. Because, you know, now I learned more, or at least as much, doing sessions in the evenings, every evening, basically. We did a jam session every night with students, just students. And I learned more from doing those, or at least as much from doing those as I did in my classes, okay? So, but another thing I learned was how important it was to be in New York. Plus, you know, I'm here, and I'm seeing my friends from back in New York starting to appear on records. I'm like, what am I doing? I need to go home. So I went back. Now, here's the funny thing. So I started my career in New York and was, you know, elevating. Then I left. Like, right when my career was taking off in New York, I left and moved to Chicago. What? Like, who does that? It's a great story now because I've survived and made a little bit of a name for myself, but really, I was not supposed to make it because no one leaves New York and, you know, is ever heard from again. So I go to Chicago and I just stay in Chicago. Fortunately, my spirit was from New York, but it had been emboldened by things that happened to me, these magical occurrences, magical musical occurrences that happened in New York, but they didn't have to happen. Like, I never looked at it like it was because I was in New York and because I was so great. These things just magically happened. So when I left New York, I thought it had nothing to do with New York. It had something to do with, must have had something to do with me, not because I was great, but just my energy. So I just kept that energy and tried to work off that energy, right? Meaning, like what Professor Savage said, you know, having self-motivation, believing in myself, went against all odds. Now I'm away from New York, I'm farther from my dream as I could be, as far as I could be from my dream, but still believing, still wanting it, still trying, still finding opportunities and ways to make things happen. The world has shrunk since the internet, and you know, people from all over are doing tremendous things in music. It's not about a city, it's about you. Yes, there's no place that's the Mecca, there's no place like it, but there are great musicians everywhere. It's about you and how big your dream is and how hard you're going to work to make it manifest.